Hey folks, Species7 here. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to Guardians of Ember, a really good little ARPG-styled MMO. Now, you may have noticed from the title that I have said this is Final Thoughts. Am I done playing the game? No. I have about 40 hours in, and, well, quite frankly, I do fully intend to play on. But I think at this point, it would probably be well to actually, express my thoughts on the game. I think I've seen enough of the different areas, etc., to know what to expect of the enemies. And, well, in the early 2000s, there were a lot of MMOs coming out of Korea and places like that. They were basically very, very much like this. They were grind for items with very similar questing. There were piles of them that came out. I know that because I used to do beta testing for them. Yeah, I know, it's weird, and it was in exchange for a free copy of the game. Yeah, it's like aliens used to run the internet, I know. The developers used to actually, actively seek out and pay people to test their games. Of course, now we actively seek out developers and pay them to test their games. But like I said, that's the norm. So it is very much like those. And admittedly, every one of them was enjoyable. I can't speak much of endgame on this. For one, I haven't reached there yet. And I have researched what goes on, and at this point the issue with it is there's a fairly small player base involved here. So that always deters a little bit from most endgame content. So what I do know from the PvE aspect, and that's one nice thing, if you want a sort of Diablo-esque ARPG that is an MMO, but at the same time you can run solo. I mean, I'm level whatever 25 or something now, and have not, other than accidentally, when you're doing something and someone else shows up doing the same thing, have not shared the experience. This has been a single player experience. Now, it seems to work that if you have more than one player at an event, like there are world events as well as just stuff out there to kill. If you have more than one player or more players show up, things scale up, right? They become a little tougher. So that's a good system. I have no issues with that. Everybody right up to Guild Wars 2 uses that. It allows for a more, how dare you, reform. Oh, I got a freebie out of it. It allows for sort of a more free world feel to things. Rather, they don't feel quite as scripted, even though obviously they're very, very scripted events. So this does have that going for it. What I'd have to say is, if you're looking for something where you enjoy the outright experience of what you're doing continuously, and you don't mind doing that same thing, because the areas are very, very similar. The dungeons are incredibly similar. And the combat, basically, because you end up burning through your skill tree. I have not changed skills. Now, I have gained a couple of secondaries in the meantime, although, unfortunately, they haven't been as good as the ones that I've been using since about level 12 or 13. And that's where one of the issues comes in. Like this skill, I have no use really, like no hard use for putting more points into my skill system on my primary class. Other than what I'm doing is, as you can see, tacking on stuff that'll help. Like, in this case, adding damage bonuses all the way across the board. This isn't going to lead me to a new skill. It's basically filling points. And I'll do the same here, but even if I eventually light this skill up, it's not doing my character as much good as this one, right? Because this brings back a heal. I'm a squishy. I'm a caster. So, yeah. Having a heal is necessary, right? And oddly enough, that's my primary class. That's not even my healer. This is the healer, dude. But they've got such a powerful damage because when you set up your characters, right, because of the way they've got this worked, right, where most MMOs will split damage between ranged and melee, right, and you know, you build strength, you're better at melee, you build dexterity, you're better at ranged, you build intellect, you're better at casting, right? I don't mind at all that they've gone away from that whole special system, which is what is called the special system because it's like strength and blah blah blah, all the way to, you guys know. Anyway, this is neat, but the fact that they split damage, right, gives a limited, like here, this does holy damage. Okay, well, my healer does 2 types of damage, holy damage and dark damage. So I have a choice. I either have to split everything evenly and be sort of powerful, or, as you can see here, dark damage I've only got between an 11 and 13% boost, whereas the holy damage, darn near 40. Right, and that works for all of these, even your healing. Right, and again, as a squishy, obviously healing's important, right? But what it does is takes an already very limited skill tree. I mean, this is an MMO, guys. You know, where is my massive, massive, branching, confusing, mind-boggling skill tree? You know, this is a linear, go to here, done. You know, passive skills, they open up by level. You know, and again, you'll notice I'm not using the latest and greatest. Right? I'm way back here, actually. So that's sort of an unfortunate thing. And that also was something that you found fairly common in those MMOs from the early mid-2000s. At the same time, using those skills is fun. But you've got to realize that you're going to be, you know, using your left-click skill. You're going to be using your right-click skill. And you're not going to use any of your hotbar skills till you run up something that's like an elite. So it is very grindy in that sense. So you make that with the same amount of, like I said, very sameness about the landscapes. They're not identical, but you very quickly realize how close to each other they are. And the dungeons are pretty much, you know, they're rock corridors that lead into slightly larger. They're different shapes. Some of them are more than one level, etc. But they're pretty much a, you know, the same asset dragged into a different shape. And since most of your enemies are sort of similar, yeah, it doesn't help. I've been over the crafting system. It's, again, exactly like those MMOs in the early to mid-2000s where you always had that chance where things could go horribly, horribly wrong, whereas if you look at how more modern games tend to do it, is you invest into that craft or into that trade and then become better. This doesn't. You're as good at it the day you first do it as 60 levels later. You know, the only thing that increases is the more you do it. You will get a sort of a boost, but even with the boost, there's still that chance that you go to upgrade something and boom, it fails. You know, as a goldsmith for many years, let me tell you, once you've got your craft perfected, unless you have a mechanical failure, and we're using magic here, people, not mechanics, yeah, you don't have, you know, just a plain crafting failure. You know, if I craft a gold ring, there's a gold ring in front of me. Does it look as good as I thought it would? Maybe, maybe not, but it's still there. So an RNG system on crafting is a little bit rough. So that's all the bads, basically. And I suppose the you know, the quickest explanation of that particular one is, well, like I said, I enjoy the combat. It's a hoot. You get tons of different gear. None of it's much use to you, but you get tons of it that you can break down for things. So yeah, it's a heck of a lot of fun. But whether it's going to last, I mean, like all others, right, understand too that your levels, of course, every time you go up, require more and more and more and more experience points to get you there. And the way you are continuously going through areas that are very, very much the same level, you don't get a whole bunch of experience for stuff. So if you're going to really want to do the same exact things for that length of time, then maybe you'll get through to the end game and the final levels, etc., etc. Ooh. Isn't that nice? But if not, then I think it explains why there isn't a big player base. You know, I think modern MMOs are sort of taking this formula. I mean, this is not tab targeted, you know, this is hard targeting, this is an actual ARPG. That's very modern. But I almost didn't notice these guys. That would have ruined the whole mission. Oh, I can talk to this one? I don't think so. There we go. Ah. So yeah, I think that's why a lot of the player base isn't around that much. It's simply for that reason. Oh, okay, I think we got enough to finish that one. Alrighty. So, on the other side of the coin, it does appear that developers are still very, very actively pursuing what they want this game to be. You know, so to say that the systems work this way now is not to say they're going to work that way always. But being an MMO, that's also contingent on the fact that you're only going to make changes as long as you actually have enough people playing the game. And I think if you get into this thinking you want a pretty good ARPG, and are not so concerned about whether it's an MMO or not, I think just original purchase, because this is not a subscription thing. This is a buy it once, and, you know, whatever comes after that, you get to keep. So, okay, I guess that was another one of those dudes. So basically, if they don't do well off initial sales, there's not a whole lot that's going to keep them wanting to improve the game. And overall, I really, really think that this game is well worth the price. You know, especially because, again, it is an MMO that's not subscription-based. It's a buy once, and it's not expensive to buy. So, final thoughts? Give it a chance. If you see it and you're contemplating it all, it may just, it is well worth having a look. So, that's probably going to do it for this one. As I say, I'm going to continue to play because it is a heck of a lot of fun. You know, and I guess, you know, bottom line, with pretty much any game, is if you're having a lot of fun playing it, and you're getting a lot of value for your money, in this case, you are. As I said, I'm 40 hours in with one character at level 25 and the other at about a level 10. And I've enjoyed those 40 hours. So, wow. You know, considering there's AAA titles that are out there at $70 that you're done in 9-10 hours, yeah, this is a really good investment in entertainment. And that's the bottom line. It is a good investment. I would recommend the game. For all its, perhaps, shortcomings, for all its sort of antiquated ideas on some ends, in the end, I would have to say you want to have a good time for not a lot of money, And, you know, maybe make some friends along the way. It is an MMO, as I said. It's maybe just the game for you. There you go. Guardians of Ember. Not too shabby. It gets a big not too shabby. Ciao for now, folks. Talk to you next.